When someone repeatedly gives you very little emotionally, it's almost impossible not to turn that inward. You start wondering what you did wrong, what you could have done better, why your care seemed to land nowhere, and why asking for basic emotional presence felt like asking for too much. Emotional laziness has a way of quietly eroding your self-worth, not because you are lacking, but because humans are wired to assume that the effort we receive is a reflection of our value. When someone doesn't show up, the mind naturally searches for reasons, and the easiest explanation is often the most painful one. Maybe I wasn't enough. But emotional laziness is not a verdict on your worth. It is a limitation in the other person's capacity. Emotional laziness is not about intelligence or even intention. It is about avoidance. It is about a person who has learned that staying emotionally minimal keeps them safe. Safe from discomfort, safe from responsibility, safe from having to sit with someone else's feelings or their own. And when you encounter someone like this, especially if you are emotionally attentive and capable of depth, the mismatch can feel personal even when it isn't. You bring presence, care, curiosity, and effort into the connection, and they bring distance, inconsistency, or silence. Over time, you start shrinking yourself. You explain less. You ask for less. You tolerate more confusion. And without realizing it, you begin carrying the emotional labor for two people. This is where the damage happens. Not in one dramatic moment, but slowly, through repetition. Each time they fail to respond emotionally, your nervous system registers it as rejection. Each time you adapt to their lack of effort, you teach yourself that your needs are negotiable. And eventually, you begin to confuse their emotional laziness with a reflection of your desirability, your importance, or your lovability. But here is the reframe that changes everything. Someone's emotional laziness is not a response to you. It is a pattern they bring into every connection. You are not the cause of it. You are simply the one who noticed it because you were present enough to feel the absence. Emotionally lazy people often gravitate toward partners who are emotionally generous, because generosity fills the gaps they don't want to address. And at first, this can feel like chemistry or balance. You give, they receive. You reach, they allow. But over time, imbalance becomes exhaustion. The more you give, the more invisible you feel. And the more invisible you feel, the more you try to prove your worth through effort. This is where taking it personally becomes dangerous, because it keeps you stuck in a loop of overfunctioning, hoping that one day your consistency will inspire their engagement. But emotional laziness is not cured by someone else's effort. It is only confronted when the person themselves chooses growth, discomfort, and accountability. And most don't, because staying emotionally shallow has worked for them. It has protected them from vulnerability and from having to change. So how do you stop taking it personally? You start by separating effort from value. You remind yourself, again and again, that someone's inability to show up emotionally is information about their limits, not about your worth. You stop asking, "Why wasn't I enough?" and start asking, "Why did I tolerate so little?" Not in a self-blaming way, but in an honest, compassionate way that returns agency back to you. You recognize that emotional reciprocity is not something you earn by being better, quieter, more patient, or more understanding. It is either available or it isn't. And when it isn't, The most self-respecting response is not to internalize the lack, but to name it. To yourself first. You also learn to notice how your body feels around emotional laziness. The tightness, the hypervigilance, the constant wondering. Your nervous system knows before your mind does. When you stop overriding that signal, when you stop explaining away your discomfort, you begin to detach your identity from someone else's capacity. And that detachment is not coldness. It is clarity. It is you choosing not to confuse emotional neglect with something you need to fix about yourself. Stopping taking emotional laziness personally doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop contorting yourself to make sense of something that was never about you. It means you let go of the fantasy that if you just explain better, love harder, or wait longer, someone will suddenly meet you where you already are. And as that fantasy dissolves, something steadier takes its place. Self-trust. You begin to trust that your need for emotional presence is not excessive, that your desire for responsiveness is not demanding, that your longing for depth is not a flaw. It is simply a signal pointing you toward people who can actually meet you there. And that shift, quiet as it may seem, is the moment emotional laziness loses its power over you. Welcome to Attachment Alchemy Lab. You're safe here.